explosion.
He is captured putting something on the store. And then there, it seems that he is already holding his cell phone. And he dialed the cell phone.
The footage showed the bomb had been detonated remotely.
At around 8:39, the explosion was monitored by the CCTV camera.
The key question, who was planting these bombs? The Army bomb squad claimed they knew the answer. What sort of damage will this cause when it goes off?
When this contraption explodes, all these metal parts will become fragments. This is actually what will hit you when this is exposed. Yeah, our troops have been recovering these kinds of bombs at least once per week. On bad days, actually, especially 2 months ago, 3 bombs explode in one day.
Major Kabang Bang blamed the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, a long-standing Muslim rebel movement in the Philippines.
We have actually reports that the Special Operations Group of the MILF plants these bombs. And this group received training, explosive ordnance and demolition training from the Jemaah Islamiyah that has links to the Al-Qaeda network.
The army spokesman believed that the way the bombs were constructed suggested that the MILF had developed links with the Indonesian terror network that planted the Bali bomb in 2002. The Filipino government and the MILF have been engaged in talks to stop the fighting. Despite many ceasefires, the latest signed in July, attacks have continued. We travelled deep into the jungle of Mindanao, where we'd been told the fighting was most brutal. Unlike the rest of the Philippines, which is officially Christian, Mindanao has been a predominantly Muslim island for centuries. But the arrival of Christian settlers after World War II has led to sectarian fighting. We went to a Christian enclave to investigate a recent attack. Carmela and Mary Jane are taking us to the remote village where they live, which was attacked, they say, late last year by the MILF.
Nadunggan ako na may buto dito isa.
Carmela told us that she'd been cooking breakfast here when suddenly she heard gunfire. She went to the door and saw her husband rushing towards her, pursued by armed men. The family ran away as fast as they could. Carmela says that she and her husband built this house together when they got married. They've raised 5 children here, and now this is all that's left. Carmela then revealed the fate of the rest of her family.
Dito man siya namatay oh. Dito sa daplinsada.
Carmela has been describing how her father was planting maize in the fields over there. He was shot dead. Her mother tried to run away and was shot in the back somewhere over there. Her brother was abducted and killed later. At her new home, decorated with biblical pictures, Carmela showed us photographs of her dead parents. Carmela says she cannot understand why her parents were attacked. They were friendly to everybody and were not involved in any land disputes. The only reason she says she can think of is that her parents were Christian. We wanted to know if the MILF, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, were indeed behind these attacks and bombings. Through our contacts, we arranged to meet them. As we enter MILF territory, there are military checkpoints pretty well every few hundred yards, on the lookout for insurgents or possible bombers. Hi.
Hi, you'll be at the back?
I'll be in the back, yeah.
Yes.
We met our MILF guide and travelled deep into the jungle. The last part of our journey was made on foot, the road being impassable. The MILF commander wanted to show me their firepower.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
We were confronted with what looked like about 400 men in a training camp. The MILF claims to have 12,000 fighters across the southern Philippines, in effect, a standing army. Here in the front row, are the hardened troops in uniform, all seen combat, very well equipped. Here's a grenade launcher, machine guns, RPGs. But you go to the back, here are the new recruits, almost as many new recruits as there are hardened soldiers. You get a sense of an army that's growing. We were taken to meet the new recruits, some of whom seemed very young.
No.
Iqbal told us he had recently fled fighting in his village. I've just been talking to these 4 young men here. All of them are under 18 years old, in one case 13 years old. Effectively, they're child soldiers. They say their villages were burnt down and they've joined the MILF in order to fight for their land and with the encouragement of their parents. Commander Saab was eager to explain away the presence of children in the ranks, a practice which contravenes the Geneva Convention.
They are on basic military training.
Yeah.
It means that they are not prepared for any battle.
Yeah.
Because we are, if they reach 18, that's the time.
I asked the MILF spokesman Eid Kabalu what these young men are fighting for.
We are fighting to regain back our identity as a people, as a nation, and as well as to recover our homeland. What we wanted here is a political power so that we shall be able to govern ourselves.
The MILF denied links with foreign terrorist organisations. When asked about the allegations we'd heard that the MILF had targeted innocent civilians, Kabalu denied it. But he went further, accusing the Philippine Army of targeting civilians.
The Philippine Army actually targeting not only the combatants of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, but including the whole Bangsamoro people as their enemy.
We wanted to investigate whether the army was targeting ordinary Muslims, as the MILF claimed. We travelled to Nanungan, a Muslim village deep in MILF territory. It's clear that the whole village has been systematically destroyed. Every building I can see here has been wrecked, or shelled, or burnt. This was your house. Ida Kabalan used to live here.
Ito yung, pharmacy ko, maliit lang na pharmacy. So dito pumapasok yung,
Ida says that this just here was a pharmacy, and we're still finding bits of surgical tape and vials of medicine here. Over there was the grocery store. Ida says she lived upstairs with her 2 parents. Now, of course, everything's all gone. Yul Olea, who works for a cross-community body monitoring the ceasefire, told us who he held responsible for the destruction.
The suspected perpetrators of this burning of these villages is the military, and there are witnesses who actually saw the event.
Why would this place have been targeted?
The MILF troops are passing through these areas because this is part, and the military, the government knows about it. It's declared area. This is the territory of the MILF.
Amidst the ruins, the graffiti on the wall sent a message of MILF defiance against the government. We were told that Nanungan was far from an isolated case. There were deserted villages all across this province. As we drive through Maguindanao province, we're constantly passing evacuation camps with displaced people. In the last year, 600,000 have been driven from their homes by the fighting. We arrived at Datu Odin camp. Abbas, the camp coordinator, told us the camp was becoming like a permanent home for many people. Abbas says that it's nothing new for the people here to flee their villages and come to camps, but the difference now is that they've been here a full year, during which time it's been too dangerous to go back to their villages. I was told that there were 1,800 people in this camp, many of them living in dire conditions. I met one man, Kaitam. He and his family have been on the move since August last year. Kaitam said that he had to beg for basic shelter, and the rain got through anyway. Inside his tiny shack were his few remaining possessions. Here is the family food supply. I guess there's about a pound of rice here, enough for barely one meal. After that, they haven't the faintest idea where any more food is coming from. Titan claimed that his village was bombarded by the Filipino army and air force. His brother, his wife, and their 5 children were killed while trying to flee. He said that he thinks the conflict in Mindanao has turned into an all-out religious war. He says that the Christians want to exterminate, or at any rate convert, the Muslims, but he says that there's no way that can happen. He was born a Muslim and he'll die a Muslim. We'd heard repeated reports that the evacuees were still in danger, even after they'd reached the so-called safety of the camps. We met one terrified woman who told us that her husband had been abducted. Sarah said her husband was seized by the Filipino army on the way back from collecting food rations. Witnesses told her that he was hit with rifle butts, slashed with blades, handcuffed and shoved into a vehicle. 5 days later, she said, she discovered his dead body on a riverbank. This is all she's got left of her husband, is the shirt he was wearing when he died. And these holes, she says, were caused by knife wounds, and you can see how vicious they were. They're on both sides of the shirt. I asked Sarah why she thought her husband was targeted. She believes the reason her husband was killed was because he went to fetch his food supplies without his ID card. She told us that she suspected the army thought he was a member of the MILF and murdered him. We heard of 3 other abduction cases in this camp alone. The Filipino military deny bombing and shelling civilian areas and say it's not in their rules of engagement to engage the enemy inside their communities. We drove 5 hours east through Muslim territory to central Mindanao. We're now travelling to the area which has borne the brunt of the fighting over the last 12 months. It's called Ariosan, and on the fault line between the Christian and the Muslim communities. The mayor of this Christian village said that 200 houses had been burnt down recently by the MILF.
So over the road, in front of this detachment, are Muslim houses, Muslim communities. In many occasions, the attack came from here.
From the jungle across the road there, yeah.
The other side of that is a Muslim community.
So the other side of that is held by Muslim forces, MILF.
Yeah, that houses are owned by Muslims.
And you think you could be attacked at any time, yeah?
Yeah. This is the machine gun that we have. Use it in repulsing the attack of the MILF.
The mayor said the men of the village had joined together to form a neighbourhood militia.
You can see the other militia coming from their home. Every people here have firearms, either from the government or they own it themselves.
Are you recognised by the government?
They recognize that we have militia here, but they didn't recognize us as a legal entity to hold a firearm. They just allow us to exist.
The mayor said his men only had the most basic training. Isn't arming civilians a very dangerous road to go down?
What will happen to us if we don't have arms to defend ourselves? The abuses of the rebels, taking away our farm products, taking away our farm animals, burning our houses, killing our loved ones. So how will we be able to defend ourselves?
Do you feel that you're under siege here?
Yeah, we are always under siege. The question of conflict here is about the land. It is just like Israel and Palestine.
The depth of the sectarian divide between Christian and Muslim was becoming clear. One old man spat out raw hatred. Juanin told us he was a fighter when the first Christian vigilante groups were formed in the 1970s. Their atrocities against Muslims have been widely documented. Juanin described how he had cut off the ears of dead Muslims, cooked them, and eaten them. He added that as a fighter he had never made a distinction between ordinary Muslims and Muslim combatants, and it was the same for the other side. Recently, 7 of his relatives were killed in a sectarian attack. That's why he doesn't mind if he kills Muslims, whether they're old or young. He just feels that he's doing the right thing.